Good day. I'm going to pick up on our lesson 12 step by steps. I'm going to start on on slide 17, and we are using the same file. So we are looking at our 12th fourth coffee financial history, and we are going to go back to the sales worksheet. And for this part of the lesson, we're going to go back to learning how to select data for our chart. So in this section, they want to teach you how to use a column chart. And you use a column chart to compare. And generally, we can compare more than one thing, unlike a pie chart. But still, a lot of the times when you are comparing with a column chart, you're either doing the individual totals, like you see here, or you would be comparing the total sales. There are some cases we'll get into later where we might compare individual to the actual total. So remember, you want to know what each one of your totals stands for. So a lot of the times you will have selected the row headers like you see here in column A. So the row header for 3 is coffee and espresso, and it shows all the individual amounts, the sales for each one of those years. Then, of course, we have the column headers here that tell us the years. So we're going to select A2 to F7 because we want to look at the annual sales for all of our categories. We could just do, if we wanted to, using that control key again, we could just compare a few of them instead of all of them, but we are going to compare all of them in this one. So I'm going to select A2 to F7. Again, I'm going to go to the insert ribbon. I'm going to go to the charts group. And this time I want a column, and column and bar together. Columns are vertical up and down, and bars go left to right. So a bar essentially flips the axis, if you will, in your chart. All right, so we are going to pick the 3D clustered column today, opposed to the 2D, and that just makes it three-dimensional. And we have inserted our chart. It says the column chart illustrates the sales for each of the revenue categories for the 5-year period. And of course, we have our contextual tabs back, chart tools, design, and format. It says anywhere in the blank area of the chart, you can click and drag the chart below the worksheet data and position it accordingly. So we're going to move it down here about A9, always judging off the upper left-hand corner of the chart. Remember, it's the crosshair to move, and then the vertical double arrow to resize on these two, and then it's the vertical double arrow to resize on these two. And if you wanted to resize it, it's the diagonal arrow on the 4 corners. And they wanted me to remind you that if I click outside the chart, the contextual tabs go away. So they want you now to see that you can insert 2 charts on one worksheet tab, or in one worksheet. So we're going to select that same range again. And so A2 to F7. I'm going to go back to the insert tab. I'm going to my charts, but this time, instead of a column chart, they want us to do a line chart. So we have 2D line charts, 3D, we have area. Excuse me. We are going to do a 2D with marker. So you see line, stacked, 100%, and then you get to these markers, which are the plot points, the little circles. So we're going to do line with markers. And notice on here, and I'm going to move it, they instruct us to move it in a little bit. But I'm going to keep it on the same worksheet for just a second so we can see. So we have the same exact data here in 2 different charts. Notice that coffee and espresso is the same blue in each one of these, and this is our top number. And you can see in this one, it's our top number because it's clearly the higher. And then everything else is kind of lumped around in the same area. So if you wanted to show the trend over time, you would tend to use the column chart. If you were trying to compare year by year, each individual category, you may see yourself using a column chart. The legend is helpful because it tells us what each one of the color codings are for our charts, excuse me. And then of course we have the y-axis here and here that gives us our values, and our x-axis has the years. They say to click on the column chart, so just select it. Our contextual tab comes back. Now, when you have two charts on one worksheet, of course, you want to make sure you're clicked on the right the right chart. And they want us to go to the Design Contextual tab, and they want us to click the Move Chart. And we're going to move it to a new sheet named Column. Of course, be careful on the spelling, and press OK. Then it says to go back, and it resizes it, and all the contextual tab stuff comes with it. And of course, again, you could select the chart and then reselect the data, and it takes you back to the sales worksheet, which contains all our actual data. All right, now I'm going to go to the sales worksheet tab. And they want us to click on the line chart. And they want us to move the chart. And we're going to move it to a new sheet. And we're going to name this one Line. And I'm going to press OK. And it also tells us to double check the order of our worksheet tabs. We have 2014 Pi from our other lesson. We have column, line, and sales. All right. The next thing we're going to work on is this feature called recommended charts. And what the recommended chart feature will do essentially is it will kind of suggest based on what you select what a good chart is for that information. Of course, it's a computer, and sometimes it's right, and sometimes there's better options. So we're going to go back to the sales worksheet tab, and they want us to select A2 to F3. Okay, so we've included the years and coffee and espresso, and they want us to go to insert, and recommended charts is in the charts group. Click on recommended charts. And it suggests for us line, it suggests for us clustered column, it suggests us pie, excuse me, and stacked area. So it recommends 4 chart types. And as you click on each one of these, it does explain to you underneath the picture over here on the right-hand side what would be a good use, or why this would be a good use for this data, or what the chart is typically used for. So it says a pie chart is used to show proportions of a whole. It is used to show the number that relate to the larger sum and always equals 100. Do not use this chart if it contains many slices or angles that are hard to estimate, which I've explained to you before. A clustered column is used to compare values across categories, and it is used when the order of the categories is not important. A line chart is used to display trends over time, years, months, or days, or categories when the order is important. Use it when there are many data points and the order is important. Then we have the stacked area chart, which we don't have to quite worry about yet. It's used to display the relationship of the parts to the whole over time. It's used to show the magnitude of change over time or draw attention to the total values across the trend. Okay, so the directions tell us to click the other 3 chart types and read the descriptions, which we did. Now we're going to click on line, and it should be first in the list, and we're going to click OK. It says click the Move Chart button in the new sheet box and type in coffee line. So all we want to do is look at one thing here, and we'll come back and do other things to this later. So instead of going to design this time, I'm going to right click and I'm going to do Move Chart just to remind you that that is an option. And again, we're going to call this coffee line. And I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to press OK. Now our current order of our worksheets, let me move this out of the way, should be 2014 pie, column, line, coffee line, and sales. Okay, it says to click on the sales worksheet tab, and we're going to select this time A2 just to F2. And then we're going to use control, and we're going to select A8 to F8. So here comes the totals that we haven't looked at yet. Remember, control for non-adjacent. Now we're going to go to Insert, Charts Group, Recommended, and we have the same four again. Again, here also, just so you know, under the Insert Chart, Recommendation Charts, or Recommended Charts, you can still get to the All Charts if it's not the one that you want that they recommend. Just a heads up. Okay, it says in the Recommended Charts button, we are going to, the recommended choices are the same. Because we are still selecting the same row of data essentially. So we're going to stick with line and we're going to press OK. And now we have total sales. And notice it gives us a chart title and the labels are here. This doesn't have the legend, but we could come up here to design and we could change the layout if we wanted to. So we're going to move this chart as well. And this one's going to be called total line. And I'm going to press OK. And our order should be 2014 pie, column, line, coffee line, total line, and sales. Okay, so the next chart we're going to learn how to create is a bar chart. They're very similar to a column chart. Again, used to illustrate comparisons, but the data is arranged on the horizontal opposed to on the vertical. They say data charts are similar to column charts and can be used in illustration to compare among individual items. Data that is arranged in columns or rows on a worksheet can be plotted in a bar chart. Clustered bar charts compare values across categories. Stacked bar charts show relationships of individual items to the whole of the item. The side-by-side bar charts you create in this exercise illustrate two versions of the same data. Okay, so we're going to start on the sales worksheet. And we are going to select A2 to F7. We're going to go to the Insert ribbon to the Charts group. And we're going to drop down our column and bar chart option because they're under the same one. And we want 3D opposed to 2D. And we want 3D clustered bar. And they want us to drag the clustered bar to the left below the worksheet. So it's about that it's about that A9 range. So again, we can still see that our coffee and espresso is the tallest, just like we could over here in our column chart. Okay, this is your vertical axis. This is your horizontal axis. But now it's just flipped over. So here's your numbers over here, just flipped over, and here's the years. And we are now looking at, essentially the value aspect on this one, where it's the longest point out to the right, if you will. Now it says to select A2 to F7 again. And then we're going to go back to insert in the charts group, and we're going to drop down that clustered column. And we are going to, this time, do a 3D stacked bar. Okay, so I'm going to click on that. And again, they look very similar, but the cool thing about this one, okay, is that coffee and espresso are its own, and the bakery is stacked up on top of it, and coffee and espresso on top of that, and packaged coffee on top of that, and deli on top of that. So now I'm looking at it by year. What's my best year? Because I can see that with all my categories stacked on top of one another. See, 2018 was my best year. Okay, I can see that up here in my spreadsheet that 2018 is my best year because it's the highest number, but the chart makes it visible in a different way than your data does. Remember, these are all visual representations of your work. So it says to I positioned it to the right. All right, and then they want us to move it. So click the stacked bar to move the chart. And we're going to move it to a new sheet. And this new sheet is going to be called stacked bar. I'm going to press OK. Then I'm going to go back to my sales worksheet and I'm going to click the clustered bar. I'm going to move that one as well. I'm just right clicking. You could go to design, click on new sheet. And I am going to call this clustered bar. And then I'm going to press OK. And we should have 2014 pie, column, line, coffee line, total line, stacked bar, clustered bar, and sales. Okay. All right, so the last thing for this lesson is how to format a chart with what they call is a quick style or layout. So it's going to instantly change based on this predefined formatting that exists. So I'm going to start with the 2014 pie, and I'm going to go to the design tab for this. And then if you look, there's quick layout over here. And these all have numbers, and they come with all different elements like chart types and legends and data points and things. And again, you could add to them after you pick one of these layouts if you want to. So I'm going to pick layout 1. And that's what layout 1 looks like. No chart title, but it has our data labels on here. And they're, for the most part, inside. And then they want us to come back and try layout. Okay. And then pick layout 1, sorry. It says one of the chart styles is already selected. Select style 9. So chart styles are over here, and it more has to do with the coloring. The layout has to do with the elements. This has to do with kind of the visual colors that you would get, background colors, colors of each slice, so on and so forth. So we're going to pick 9. Changes it just a little bit. The next thing it says the chart colors are determined by the same theme of your worksheet. Click the change colors, which is over here to the left of the chart styles or to the right of the quick layout. And you can hover over, and now I can pick different colors. This is essentially the same stuff we did when we were changing themes. We're going to pick colorful 3. And that's the result of it. And when you pick the change colors, it does change to the design colors up here, just like it does with all the theme stuff. All right, so the next thing we're going to do is the same idea, but we're going to do it with our column chart. So I'm going to click on column. I'm going to go to design, and under quick layout, you can see you get a live preview as you hover over each one of these. We're going to pick layout 5. And you see a data table underneath. So it's essentially just like a little mini spreadsheet that appears with this layout, which is pretty cool if you were presenting and this was something you really wanted to ensure was in your document. You may choose this layout 5 to have this data table underneath. It says the years 2014 through 2018 are shown, which they are, and act both as access label. Okay, so it tells us the years right underneath here like it would any other time. But now it also, and it has a legend, and it then also has the actual data from the table. So it's a cool feature when it's important not only to see the visual representation of your data, but to still have the data on the chart when you have this separate chart. Remember, an embedded chart is when your chart is on the same page as your worksheet. This allows you kind of merge the two worlds, if you will. Okay, that's all for this lesson. Thank you.